Bruce, I've got to thank you first and foremost for even putting that together, because that is far better edited than I could ever do.
It looks pretty good, doesn't it? I have to say, I like that with your library on it. Is that the correct word? It looks quite good. Yeah, I like that.
We are delighted to be joined by Jason and Andrew. Hannah is here as well. She is currently dealing with a very sick child. I can kind of see it off screen in the corner. But Jason, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Nice to see you guys again. And I'm glad I'm not in a lay-by this time. Yeah.
Love that intro. That was brilliant. That made me smile. That's fancy. Well, you should get me on some of my businesses, marketing, Bruce, by the sounds of it. I like
that. I was just looking at those crowds, and there was it's the anniversary today, and on this day in 1935, we beat Arsenal 1-0 at Blundell Park, and there were 26,000 there. I think that'll keep Lisa busy in the ticket office if we have a target 26,000. But yeah, can you imagine that? 26,000 in Blundell Park. It must have been amazing.
I can hear. I was at
the Everton game and the Wolves game back in 1979 when there were about 21,000, 22,000 there, and it was all the corners were full. It was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, the biggest I saw was Spurs when we played them in '91 with I think it was about 17,000. But yeah, like you say, the late 70s, early 80s, it was there were a few crowds, weren't there, of 20-odd thousand. Yeah, it's amazing, really. Like, I just remember the Spurs fans being packed in that corner that's now redundant. Literally, I went down there for the fan on the fan day, the corner between the Osman and the Main for anyone listening, and it was just like, how did we even get 900 Spurs fans in this corner?
Well, that was the corner that I was a ball boy, and I wrote about it on Cod Almighty, and I had a back covered in spit and 13p thrown at me that day. So it was a good day when you netted out the two. But it was, they used to be absolutely rammed in those. That was in the early 80s, and it was such a it'd be good to get back to that, wouldn't it, at some point? So we definitely haven't budgeted for that this year, but it'd be good to get back to it at some point in the near future.
That'd boost Hursty's coffers, wouldn't it?
There we go.
I'm slightly worried. Yeah, we've budgeted for about 26,000. It's fine. Well, I guess the fans have obviously sent in quite a few questions. There's about 50 in total. I assume we might not have time for all of them, but thank you anyway for sending them. I guess the first question to open up with really is, how's it been? With 120 days into your ownership, I believe. I'm not sure if anyone's counting, but it would be great to get your thoughts on it. First few games, I mean, no goals conceded, undefeated. I assume this is what you were both planning and expecting a couple of weeks into the season.
Shall I go first, Jason, or do you want to go first? I'll go off. Right. So no, it's obviously the start on the pitch has been pretty good. Not to get everyone too excited by winning both games, but a point at Stockport I think we'd have taken before we got there. And for me, the kind of exhilaration of the Weymouth result and the goal that McAtee scored was kind of one of the reasons we did this. So it's from that perspective been on the pitch been a pretty good start with obviously a few challenges that we've had from pre-season injuries and the COVID outbreak, but and off the pitch, again, I think as we said to you guys last time, there's so many things involved in a football club that some of the things that you probably could have thought of before, but quite a lot of other things that you maybe wouldn't have thought of, that you have to make decisions on and have to kind of keep the ball moving forward. So from that perspective, it's definitely a challenge, and but it's also very enjoyable. And the team that is being built both kind of off the pitch and on the pitch is going to take time, but we're kind of working through that and just trying to make those small constant improvements as we can to help Paul and the team to do their best.
Yeah, just to build on that, I go look. I've been really pleased with the work rate, both of what we're seeing on the pitch. I mean, for those that weren't at Stockport, you just couldn't fault the effort from the side. And I think that's one thing that we wanted to see. In the last couple of years, that hasn't always been as evident, I don't think. But I felt that Paul's mentioned in some of his interviews, it doesn't quite got into the rhythm of what's the best system and what's the best play. But certainly from the characters and the sort of quality of output, we know we won't be short of graft, which I think, as coming from the town, you want to see that, I think, and that's something we've talked about. So that's pleasing. But we've got some quality as well, So on the pitch, there's a long way to go. And then Debbie's doing an amazing job. I think someone else quoted as our most important signing of the summer. Debbie is just making it. The system's change, the cultural change that we're trying to make within the organisation takes longer. You can see the evidence on the pitch of what Paul's can do because there's an output in that way. But the cultural work, getting the strategy and the team together that Debbie's doing is just phenomenal. And she's both got the work ethic and the intellect and the EQ to do the job for us. So chuffed to bits with that. I was relieved to get through the first day. I don't know about you, Andrew. It was just like there were so many moving pieces, and we were with so many unknowns about whether people would come back and how it'd be received. And it was just such a lovely day. And then I had the added stress that I hadn't factored in, which is I keep saying to people, do people want to come and watch a game with me? So I took 53 people to Stockport on Tuesday night. I'm going to stop after ask that question. It's like we've got so. I think I must have bought like 50 kids' shirts for people that I know that are now town fans, which is great, but it's costing me a fortune, more than the money we're putting into the club, I think, overall, buying replica kits for friends and family. But it's the fan base of the future. But I felt like I really enjoyed the Stockport game. Just getting the relief of the first day back at Blundell Park was one thing, and so I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm at Blundell Park today. I'll be there tomorrow. Obviously, I'm looking forward to it. It should get a bit easier now. We've got through those first couple of games. Unfortunately, got the right performance.
Andrew, there's a famous line in the West Wing that says, there are two things you don't want to see how's made, laws and sausages. Now you've been through your first sort of pre-season. I don't think there's anybody better placed to ask. What was it like to see the sausage being made in sort of, watching the turnaround of transfers going on and the saga behind it? Is it more terrifying than you'd have thought the first time you'd imagined it?
Actually, I have to say it did run pretty smoothly. I mean, Paul's clearly a pro, and he has his own mind in terms of players that he wants to see, and he's been great in terms of kind of working with his budget. Albeit we've made it clear to him that if we can find that elusive striker that he wants, then we'll look hard at bringing them in as well. But no, I'd say that the kind of the machinations behind the scenes from the transfer standpoint has been pretty smooth. We haven't missed out on too many people that he wanted, and I think that the group he's put together, you're always going to, I guess, you're probably always going to get one or two mistakes, but I think the broad sense for me is that having watched a few of the pre-season games as well, is that he's got a good squad of players together. They seem to have got the right spirit, as Jason said. They've got that work ethic, which we all love. You've got a good sprinkling of locals. You've got a good sprinkling of youth. So yeah, I think it's and obviously, getting Mr. Pearson back and obviously Lenny at the end of last season, sort of bringing back some of the old pros is also good, for familiarity with the fans. So yeah, it's not been too surprising from that perspective. I think there've been other aspects that have been more challenging, I guess, but no, the transfer side, and Paul's done a great job in terms of moving that forward, and the admin of it has also been relatively straightforward.
Alex, can I just dive in there?
Yeah, of course, because I was talking on mute.
What a great question, by the way. Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those questions where I started with the beginning bit and didn't really know where it was going, but I tried.
That was an analogy. That was an analogy looking for a question, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great question.
What were you going to ask, Bruce?
Yeah, just one of the questions that I had was based around a little bit around how the way that you found things, but with regards to travelling and you both living away from town, how has it been? Have you had to make more of a time commitment than to be here in person than you thought you would? And yeah, I mean, and you know, and how has that been different to what you thought you were going to have to do?
No, I can jump in. I mean, I've cleared a few of my board positions out to take this on. So, you know, I thought when we knew that the transaction was going to happen, I've been looking at a couple. So I've actually come off a couple of the boards that are actually effective from September that I operate. Not all of them, but a couple of them. And then, you know, we knew that there was going to be a time equipment. So I'd sorted out, you know, to live with my wife and stuff. I use and it sounds daft, but you know, COVID's made things easy. When people don't always expect you to be in person, you don't always need to be in person. So for me, I do a lot of calls. My assistant schedules calls for when I'm traveling over here. So I'm coming over every week, and obviously the home games, we're going to be at every home game, as many away games as we can, wherever's practical. And then I speak to Debbie every day, a couple of times a day. Often, with our job was to hire a brilliant CEO, hire a manager, and then just give them the support and get stuff out of their way. And that doesn't need us to be physically here. So I've said to Paul again, I'm like, look, when I was a CEO, full-time CEO, I didn't want my chairman in my office every day, and I don't want my investors in my office every day. But we said to Paul, look, we'll be there as instructive as you need us to be, as supportive as you need us to be. And if you want us 5 days a week, we can turn up, we'll do the work. That's unlikely. So we're taking our instruction, but we're available as we need to be available. And you know, Andrew and I talked about this. Is like I said, I'd do this shift as chairman for now, but we're making every decision together. And we run our businesses and our lives online and do video these days anyway. And I think people accept that. So, you know, like I'm here a couple of days this week, say next week. You know, it's as is needed. But I think what was stated before is we've both built careers by being on the move a lot. So the nature of how we've operated for the last sort of 30 years is that traveling is part of what we do and is part of what we operate. So irrespective of where you're based, you know, I for 10 years I was on planes every week. Not sure how good my carbon footprint was before that was a real issue, but it was like, that I was traveling all the time. Now Andrew's had a similar career, so for me, the miles isn't an issue. We just go where we need to be, when we need to be, and where we can be useful. But the important bit is you don't want to get in the way as well. Debbie's an accomplished and capable CEO. Paul's an accomplished and capable manager. So what you don't want is two people like me and Andrew in the office every day trying to be directive, because if we're left to our own devices, we'll get up to trouble. So it's best that we do stay out of the way of it as well. I don't know, Andrew, if you've got a different view, but
yeah, and again, no, I agree with that. I mean, Jason is is very, a little bit more hands-on than me in terms of the day-to-day kind of culture and operations, and I've been sort of working behind the scenes on sort of some of the property and ground and training ground related stuff. My cricket career has suffered. And I haven't played cricket very much this year, but with that exception, kind of fitting everything in's been fine. As Jason said, traveling is sort of something we're used to. Modern means of communication, do make life a little easier, and you can interact with people. It's not as good as in real life, I have to say. I'm a little bit sick of Zoom calls, but I see them definitely being as part of sort of our life going forward, as part of the toolkit. A little bit like when the Mac was in the PC was invented, that sort of became part of your toolkit, and I think Zoom is now. As Jason said, it's we're here to do as much or as little as needed, but giving direction, support, and just making sure that the ball's moving forward.
Brilliant, thank you.
I wanted to really know, actually, Andrew, not playing, has that actually helped the average, or is it, or are you just going to sort of put a time away against one of the easier teams just to make sure you at least have one game this season, have a strike rate of 97, and then bow out for the rest of the year?
That's what I'm hoping for, because it hasn't happened so far.
I can't argue with that at all. My only claim to fame is I got a strike rate of 400 against Angus Fraser, which was the streakiest ball you've ever seen.
I guess was it down to third man? Was it?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's where I intended it to go.
Bruce, am I the only one that doesn't understand these cricket references, or are you also lost in the last 30 seconds?
Didn't what? Sorry.
Are you lost in the? I didn't get any of those references.
I did get. Sorry, I did. Yeah, sorry. The cricket reference. I'm afraid I did get it.
Oh. I'm still trying to think of a witty response to the sausage analogy, but we might have to wait on that.
Third man is the equivalent of the ball going in off your arse, essentially. I think is probably the best way of putting it. I mean, the questions wise. So, I mean, the most popular was pretty much the same question 3 times, which came from Michael Yarborough, who said, "Can we?" I assume that's not a family name for the Pelham family. Can we do a pay it forward scheme in the ticket office when buying a ticket? We can either opt in to pay a few quid to another ticket or full ticket. And then a couple of people, Mark Mosscrop and alike, and Mike McMahon, had said they sort of agreed with that and said whether or not there was a possibility for that, especially for Exiles being able to sponsor tickets for those who can't necessarily afford it back home.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. Something that we can have a look at and see whether the ticketing system will allow it. I mean, one of the things about the new ticketing system is it is much more flexible than obviously what was there, the paper and paste that was there before. So that's certainly something we'll have a look at and see if we can sort of get that sort of wider community spirit going, which would be terrific.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on that. I mean, again, just thanks for everyone, even just the spirit that offer's been made, and it's just been so lovely, right? And it's just, I think it's typical of town fans. So thank you for that first and foremost. I mean, people might not be aware, we do actually give away 200 to 300 tickets through the trust every game as well in schools already. But what we said is, look, we want to basically build on top of that through these generous offers from fans. So Debbie's committed to taking a look at that and seeing what's the easiest way to operationalise that as well. But I guess just to thank you for the sentiment and the offers, it both are appreciated.
No, I think it's like you say. I think it's they're very generous at times like these, and I think it's a really good thought, isn't it? That people who can't go to games can spend that money, maybe helping somebody else go to a game. But right, the next question we've got in is from a James Grantham. We didn't get any anonymous, I don't think, this time, which I think they've been listening. Are there any clubs you both seek inspiration from in terms of club model, like player recruitment, training facilities, stadia, and community outreach, etc.?
Shall I start, Jason? I mean, we've been very, as I think we said before, we've been very appreciative of the various club offers of support that different clubs have given us, whether that's been Burnley or Lincoln or indeed Stockport, in terms of sort of talking behind the scenes, and indeed Boston United when I went down to visit during the pre-season. I missed half the second half as I was getting a very extensive backstage tour from the very proud owner of Boston. In terms of the model that I like, I particularly like Brentford, in the sense that they're a community club. They're clearly different to us in the sense that they're in a much more populous location, but they have a sense of really being a community club. They use data in an intelligent way, and obviously they've got to the Premier League, which is terrific for them. So I would pick out Brentford as being a club because they also win very, very regularly the awards for Community Club of the Year. So they have very extensive outreach into that part of London.
I think the sort of the long-winded answer to the question is that you just got to take the bits from all over, haven't you? There's no one that's cracked. There's no perfect club out there by any stretch of the imagination. But again, to echo what Andrew was saying, there's just loads of people that've been generous with their time and their experience as well. I think sort of beyond that, I read a book on FC St. Pauli during the summer, just about their fan experience and how they built their club in a certain style out of basically fan ownership, more or less. I thought that was really interesting. I think the data stuff really interests me. Like Andrew said, what Brentford have done from a data, but I think football's obviously an art and a science. I think you need both. So, I think being able to work on the data science capability always impresses me as well. I think the other thing for me is just about just the community engagement. Any club that has really strong community engagement, there's good examples of that up and down the pyramid. So I think we're out there trying to learn as much as we can about what are the right sort of ownership structures and what's the right way to engage. But the honest answer is we're welcome for input and suggestions from people as well. So if people want to send us stuff or see stuff that they like elsewhere, they should send it our way, because we're learning and we're listening. But at the moment, I've been pleasantly surprised by how generous people, particularly the fair game clubs. So the initiative that we've joined and we were found a member of, everyone in that group is really generous. You can, by the nature of them, sort of self-selecting into that group, you'd think that's the case. So there's a bunch of people that are doing the right thing in inverted commas. You've got to say, you've got to do what works for you. I got to meet Dale Vince in the run up to us as the takeover going through, and just learning from some of those ideas. I don't think you've got to do what's right for your club. I'm not sure everything that happened at Forest Green would suit Grimsby as a town. It's not necessarily all in character, but there are things we can learn about the green aspirations and thinking about the way that they're running the club. I think you've got to. I always say to my kids, I'm like, just listen and learn to all the advice that you can, and then make your own mind up about how you want to live your life. And so I think it's the same thing here. We're in listening mode. We want to read, we want to listen, we want to meet, we want to talk to people. And then we'll decide collectively what works for our little part of the world in DN35. So, but yes, slightly.
I would say that unlike other industries, which are, I mean, football clearly is an incredibly competitive industry. Everyone wants to beat everyone else every Saturday. And the old Nick Hornby quote of basically, you look at your results on a Saturday and you want Arsenal. He wants Arsenal to win and 91 clubs to lose. That's it's not quite the case. But the actual collaboration behind the scenes from other clubs in terms of best practice is really nice to see, actually.
I'm on microphone number 4, Bruce. I'm getting there. Thank you.
You'll be doing a click and collect at Asda not Asda, sorry, at Argos in a minute, won't you? I'll be back in 10 minutes.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Amazon will be at your door. They don't take long these days.
No, that's true. I think, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm happy for you to continue with the questions, because I'm not really sure where we are. Did you ask about the question sort of about the looking, how are we going to engage those who don't necessarily bleed black and white in DN35?
No, we haven't touched on that yet. No.
That's probably that was a relatively decent question actually coming in from Mike McMahon as well, sort of asking what are the ideas for trying to get those fans in who are from Grimsby but don't necessarily come to games and aren't necessarily as engaged as we are.
So one of the things is, so we're in the process at the moment. We said, look, the sort of 100-day plan, I think this was someone else alluded to this as a question, was to sort of come in, set a storyline in terms of some quick wins, and then evaluate the opportunity and the resources that we've got in hand already. So we're in the middle of that. So I think we're probably a couple of months away from doing anything sort of declarative and publishing, but we've done a lot of work on the vision and values that we want to represent as a club. None of it will be controversial, by the way. I think in the nature of our conversations, that people see what we're about, they'll see, they won't be surprised by that. And then the way that sort of the mental model that I've generally used in other places, that you pick a strategy and then you resource up around that, and then you do tactical stuff underneath that, and that question sort of fits in the tactics. I think for us, we've got to improve the organisation and set out the values and culture that we represent, so people look at it and go, oh, that's something I want to be associated with. I think giving people an easy yes to doing the stuff that we want to do collectively, and that includes improving the quality of the football, including the quality of the the match day experience, improving the quality of the organisation more generally. So that's all of a truism. Then within that, you can work on tactics, but people have got to look at us collectively as a club and go, I want to be part of that. And so I think we're just in that transition. Like, we're 4 months in. I think we've made, well, actually, Debbie's made amazing progress in terms of, I think Paul's done the work we always expected him to do. That was transition at the end of last year. I think, we're delighted with what he's put together. At the start of a long process, right, what we're doing is we're saying, look, he's put 14 new players into a squad and delivered a couple of great results already at the start of a journey, right? So that'll be a process that will augment over the next few years, rather than needing to wholesale change that. So as a starting position, I think that's we're delighted with that. The cultural change within the organisation will take longer, and that means just setting out our values, setting out the tone of how we behave, and people witnessing that. Because quite frankly, you can be skeptical at this stage. We've only been 4 months, and people are getting used to what we talk about, how we behave and stuff. And it's only over time when people see us consistently behaving in the right way, in the way that is, that really aligns to what we're stating, that people will start to believe in it as well. So I think there's no quick wins on that. That's something about setting out your belief systems and your values and then living them, and people witnessing that. And that happens over time, and we're in that process. That'll take us a couple of years. It started. I think we're pleased with the progress. So I think at the moment, we're really in that very early stages. But I keep saying this again and again: is like what happens on the pitch gives us legitimacy to do this stuff. Right? If we don't put out a good product on the football pitch, then people are going to look at us going, "It's fine talking about community and all the stuff you want to do, but actually we're paying to see good football." So everything begins with that. And that'll give. But I think we've made good progress in the first 100 days, but there's a long way to go. We're sort of minute 10 of a 24-hour day, I'd suggest.
I think it was really good last week. The first part of Alex's question obviously was about getting people engaged and that sort of thing. Was the amount of people? I mean, I was still in the fan zone an hour and a half after the game finished. I've never been in Blundell Park an hour and a half after the game finished before. It was just people, like-minded people, stood around drinking local beer and Coke, maybe that wasn't so local, and eating, decent food, and the atmosphere. I mean, the sun helped, and the fact that we'd won helped. But it was just. I mean, even when we were even back in the day when we were in the championship, I tweet stuff out. We had crowds of 4,000, in the championship, and we're now. I think the coverage of the game globally has moved on from then. And I think were we at that level now, we maybe would get 8,000 or 9,000 perhaps. But I think it's only doing good things it's only the way things have been done is only going to improve the number, the people wanting to come to the game. And it was.
Sorry. I was just going to say, to give people an easy yes, isn't it?
Sorry. Go on. It's
I can mute him from here, Jason.
That was like that thing you do in the street when you walk up to somebody, you have a little dance, wasn't it? It was just like, no, you. Yeah. No, sorry about that, but yeah, and I think that's only going to help. And I think these days people want a little bit more of an experience, and if we can be there from 1:30 till 6:30, and you for your money, that's fantastic.
I just credit where it's due. I keep saying that I've got this thing. You just give people an easy yes, don't you? If people want better food, better beer, facilities. That's not hard to do, right? And I think all credit to the trust, to Christine, to Dave, to everyone, Chris Park, everyone that's worked on that over the years. That idea predates Andrew and I. So that we just had to look at the timing that with the new tenure of shareholders that's come to fruition. But I just think that is symptomatic of we want to just you want to create a better experience and just keep improving it. With every time we touch something, it just keeps seeing how we can improve rather than these sweeping statements of we're going to do X and Y. And I think that was, people want an easy yes, people want to hang around. And if the food's good, the beer's good, and the conditions are good, then on a sunny day, where would you rather be after a result, right? So I think it's just, I'd slightly changed, just a different change in mindset, but it was a great start.
A lot of the questions. Sorry.
All I was going to say is one of my first questions to Debbie after last Saturday was, let's have a think about making the fan zone bigger because it was such a hit. So, very, the fact that people are queuing to get in is not so good, but at the same time, as a sign of the success. So, very, 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 very impressive work by the trust on that.
There's the only experience I have really of that is a club called Larne over in Northern Ireland, who owned by the gentleman who owns Purple Bricks, I think. And they have a fan zone essentially, and the club probably 2,000-3,000 go, and they have their sort of community bar, which was again like the fan zone, which was there till 2 hours or so after the game. There's a live bar and such, and it's nice to see that sort of inspiration has been taken because it also helps garner a larger sense of community, and you might finally stop calling that person you've known at Blundell Park for 8 years mate. You might actually ask who his name is. Bruce has gone. I mean, the question. There's a lot of wants on the questions, but there is one that I would like to ask. It's sort of around. We're talking about quick wins and such, and you're both far more experienced than I. the club shop website. I mean, I'd have loved Sam and Liam to have done a video of Jason, whose previous internet exploits have probably a far smoother process, watching you use it. What are the plans for that going forward? And is that on the quick win list, I guess?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I don't want to steal their thunder, but that was day one, hour one. That would have been a video. I tried to buy some shirts on it while we're doing this thing. I was like, you know what? Look, I'm not a coder, but I can build a better website than that on Wix or something these days. So we're on it. We've got someone. We've got I can't remember the name of the company now, but we did a short tender process, and we're rebuilding it basically. So I'm not sure on the timelines. The delivery will be fairly imminent, but we'll do the shop stuff first, and then we'll do the main. The main website's all right. It's it's a functional content system that is okay, but the shop stuff definitely needs work. So that's in train, but I haven't got an update actually. But it'll be soonish. But that was definitely one of the early decisions and money that I was definitely keen to spend.
Andrew, I must say as well, your camera position this time around is a bigger flex than the lay-by. It looks like it does look like the forum of a rocky, like a hard rock hotel.
No, it's just a white wall with a photo on it.
Is this a green screen? Is it?
Green screen, yeah.
It comes out and it's still in the lay-by.
Exactly.
So there's let's have a quick look through. Talk about, I guess, the PA system. I'd imagine that might be on the list of things. I've now got some small experience of it firsthand, and it's run like my microphone's here. I guess it's on its way.
Yeah, we're on that. It's just we're trying to get the right cost. We were slightly misquoted on what it would cost to do it. Someone missed a zero off the end of the quote. So we had to sharpen take a breath, and there's got to be a better solution than the one we've got. So we're working on that one. We was hoping to get it live for the first game, but it just hasn't been practical. But yeah, it's noted and it will get done. It's just a matter of sequencing it now.
I think I can remove like 35 questions now that one is answered. Dave Barnaby came back and said, obviously there's been recent changes in the law regarding safe standing. Are there any, as we've discussed, potentially a move away from Blundell Park might not but necessarily be in the club's near future at least? Are there explorations into looking at that potentially coming into Blundell Park?
It's something that we're definitely sort of looking at in terms of fan feedback. Just to break a myth or two about safe standing, it won't increase the capacity. It's just a like-for-like replacement of a seat with a place where you can lean against and you can sit on. So it's but certainly I used to like standing, and I can understand why there's demand for it. But I think now that the laws change and we got a bit of a nod and a wink, it was changing. We got a bit of a nod and a wink, it was coming. Then perhaps sections of the pontoon and perhaps other areas of the ground we will consider that. We're getting quotes for what the costs are of replacing the seat with the with that aspect. So again, probably not. It probably won't be this season, but something that we'd think about during the close season.
And Alex, I've listened on some of the podcasts of your comments about the Osmond as well. I think that's a good suggestion. So we're looking at the idea of could we use different parts of the ground for singing, or I think it was you that mentioned it or been advocating for. So I think all these things at the moment we're saying, look, I think there's a good idea. So we're popping that in the backlog. But I think there's the safe standing stuff does seem to be something that certain sections of the crowd want. And I think that corner of the Osmond, getting it used in a slightly different way, is something we want to look at as well.
That'll bring a tear to my eye. I knew I had one good idea. Bruce, have you got anything to ask while I just go through some of the questions? I'm trying to delete all the PA ones. It's taken a while.
I've just got one from Josh Garner that it leads on to a question that I'd written down before we started. Josh asks, how was the opening match day experience for both of you? We touched on this briefly at the start. Did it feel any different walking into Blundell Park as owners now compared to when you were fans? Is the first part. And then my second part of that question that I'd written down was there any concern for either of you at the start that, being lifelong fans of the club, that this could change the way that you feel about the club by taking over? Ultimately, at the end of the day, if things don't go, hopefully everything's going to go well. But was there a concern before you got into this that if there was ever a point where things didn't go well, that it would change the way that you felt about something, that you'd cared about something for so long? If that makes sense.
Shall I go, Andrew, on this? Shall I start off?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's definitely changed, right? I'd be lying if so it definitely felt a bit more like work. There's loads of stuff I wanted to do and will want to do on match days in particular, to make sure that we're visible, we're present, out and about, to have a contrast to how it's been historically. So, I used to be a time when I could just rock up, have a few pints, watch the game, and that stopped. So I'm not drinking. That's one thing. So that's a start. But I'm actually, I'm turning up. The stuff I want to do, I want to be out and about. I want to be talking to people, listening, getting feedback as well. So it was non-stop for me work-wise. And Andrew was hosting the directors on the first day from the club, which is something else we've got to do now as well. So yeah, it's definitely different. I think it'll get easier over time because it's new as well. So at the moment, there's a bit of an unknown in what's the most effective use of our time and effort and energy as well. But I enjoyed. I went through all the different bars and had a chat to people in all the different bars, and we're just saying hello and handed out some scarves and just wanted to say thank you. Genuinely appreciate the fact that people are showing up, and also just want to lay a marker down that we genuinely want this to be a new era for the club. So I think there's that. And yeah, look, I think I mentioned this before. I did. It was on one of the other interviews. So I can't remember where it was, but I was saying it's. I spent about 6 weeks talking to my wife about whether this was a good idea or not, and good idea in terms of the downside as opposed to the upside. Andrew and I both felt quite strongly that a change was needed, as a lot of fans did, and there wasn't too many people that were prepared to step into that or had the resources to step into that. So there's that. That's one thing. So we're like, well, actually, as fans, just stepping into a conversation that was needed was something that we both committed to. And then there's the whole downside of that, which is, look, it's dead easy. It's dead easy to just everyone to have an opinion on football and throw mud at stuff when things aren't going well. That's going to come, right? So for us, we've both talked about this, is that our careers are epitomised by you never get too excited when things go well, and consequently, you never get too excited when things go badly. You've got to sail a steady course through the middle of it and realise that things that matter are your own character, your own values, your own integrity, and your families, etc. So we bring that attitude towards the investment in the club. But at the same time, the upside's massive as well, right? If this goes well, if we can even slightly change the trajectory of the club onto an upward curve and get everyone behind it and get everyone proud of it and get everyone excited about it, what a gift of an opportunity for people in their advanced years of their life, like Andrew and I are, to be able to do something. So it's a real privilege, but I'm acknowledging that there's undoubtedly there's going to be. I was laughed about. There was a tweet asking for us to be sacked before we even sign the documents. Do you remember? And I was like, Christ, if that's before we even get in the club, what's it going to be like when we're winning, things are going badly?
Yeah, sorry about
that. Yeah, so it's gonna happen. It's inevitable, right? It's absolutely inevitable. And I'm a big believer in. I was actually speaking to someone that I coached today, a mentor today. I was saying, look, you can control your character, right? The things that you stand for, the things that are important for you and your own values. What you can't control fully is your reputation, how people view that. And so as long as you're acting with integrity and you're standing true to the things that you believe in, and Andrew and I are completely aligned. We had amazing good fortune to be introduced to each other, be partnering with people that are like-minded. It's such a privilege. That's the stuff that will get us through this. And ultimately, look, we've said again, if someone can do a better job and someone wants to take it on, we'll be happy. Our job is to do as best as we can and put our backs to trying to improve the organisation during our chapter, and then hand it on in a better state. And we know that's finite. And if people don't like what we're doing or want somebody else, I'll step aside tomorrow. I'd much rather be back in the fitness with my brothers, half cut before every game. But equally, while we're here, we're prepared to do the work and put a shift in and get everything that we've got, because it means so much to us both. So I hope that answers your question, Bruce. There's a lot in there, but I'm definitely nervous about it in a way that I don't get nervous about stuff at the stage of my career I'm at, and I quite like that as well, because it's a learning opportunity, it's an opportunity to grow and push myself into different areas. Now, look, we've both been successful, so we back ourselves, but we also recognise that there's a bunch of stuff we don't know and we're going to need support on. And when someone better comes along, hopefully we can hand over the club and the jersey to other people, as the All Blacks say. So,
No,
don't know,
I
Andrew,
think
sorry.
I think I can speak for the fan base when last Saturday at home, the changes that the two of you have been involved in, and also, like you say, the team that are working with you. It didn't feel like a club that had just been relegated. The atmosphere was brilliant. The experience was excellent. Even I didn't sit in the upper, but I went in there for the friendly. For Andrew's observation of actually being able to see the near touch line was good. I believe somebody said that was Andrew that noticed that for the barriers. That was certainly an experience. I've sat up there for about 20 years and never seen that touch line. That was excellent, and like I say, just the feeling around the place. So no, I think I can speak. And there's a couple of people had put on the questions, Alex. I think weren't there? Not so much a question, but just thank you for what you're doing and what you've done so far and what you're continuing to do.
That's really appreciated. And we're Jason and I are partners, but we're as much partners with the fans, and we want to all drive things forward together. I mean, maybe if I could just, Jason answered the question superbly, and I think encapsulated a lot of the things that kind of hit me. I'll maybe give a couple of personal sort of observations. I did sense it was a new era, even, and it was a bit weird feeling to be kind of part of it as well. So it made me think back to when I first used to go to Blundell Park with my dad, which did make me a little bit emotional on the way to the ground, I have to say. What was also weird, and I guess it's also a sign of why we're why the club is where it is, and why we all love Grimsby as a place, is I walked in, not to my usual entrance, but through into the men's entrance, and the lady who greeted me, who gave me my staff pass, which I was very proud to wear. Never thought I'd have a Grimsby Town staff pass. Said, "Oh, I'm Sam Strant's mum, and I used to babysit for you." And she could have knocked me down with a feather. It was quite weird. And so no, I found the whole experience pretty moving, and it was great. And when that goal went in, it was off the charts for me in terms of now as a fan, but it's just the first page of the first chapter. So that's kind of how I saw it.
Just to give you one moment, one quick anecdote. So I brought my whole family and my in-laws who were suddenly interested, all from Manchester over as well, and I had a real moment. So when we did the minutes clapping for the COVID stuff, I was in tears. I won't lie to you. It just really got me, just choked me seeing. And I had another moment that my father-in-law is like a lifelong Man City fan. He's from Manchester, like literally 70-year City fan. So when my son was born, he came in and had him in a Man City kit before I had a chance to get the Grimsby Town kit on him. That's always rankled with me. And so my son, who's 9, and my daughter was there with my wife. And halfway through the game, my son, who's never said this, I bought him all the kits and everything. He turned around to me and he said, he whispered to me, went, "Dad, I think I'm a Grimsby Town fan." And I was like, do you know what? I'll keep writing checks and whatever's needed for that moment with my son where he said that. And it's been absolutely joyous that my family is interested. My wife came to the Stockport game, where he's not a football fan, and just loved it as well. I'm just like, I'll tell you just to flip it though as well. There's one thing that did bother me about the day, and I hope this don't bring the mood down. But I'm genuinely puzzled by it, which was I had some booing when the players took the knee. I definitely heard people booing, and that really disappointed me on a personal level. So look, I get. Look, we want it to be an inclusive place where people can hold different political views, but I genuinely don't understand it. I need to understand it because, the players decided that they wanted to take the knee, so it was a player's decision, based on, and we respect that, and we said, look, we'll totally support that. And so whether people agree with that or not is an individual choice. Now, I genuinely respect that, but actually taking opposition to it and booing it just feels like an act that is unexplainable to me, because it's literally people saying we don't stand for racism in my mind. And so it's just worth stating that is like, we're really clear, right? There's no place. I'm not saying that was a racist act, by the way, the booing, because I think it's politically charged in a way that maybe I don't understand. But I would state that, there's zero place or tolerance for racism within the club, and we've been really clear. We'll be really clear about that. But the booing stuff, I just don't get. My intuition is it's not racist. It's something more complex than that. But what I would ask fans to do is respect the decision that the players have made collectively to represent a stand or taking the knee against racism, which is what they're doing it for, and be supportive of that. Because if I was a player, before I pitched, and even if I did hear a small minority, which I think it was, booing the decision I make, even on a practical level, that's not going to fill them with confidence before we want them to represent us for 19 minutes. So put your political views aside, if nothing else, from a practical level, you want to feel the players energised. But if people want to speak to me directly about that, get in touch, because I just don't understand it. As a town fan, as someone that loves the club and loves the town, there's no place for racism. I don't think it's that, but just put your differences aside. Don't be booing people that have decided our players have decided they want to do that. It's not come from the club per se, it's come from the players, and we support it 100%. So I just mentioned that. That was the one thing for the day that I wasn't proud of. And I was like, look, I put my own political judgments aside, because I'm open-hearted. I want to understand why people do that. But at the same time, I was like, that was a little black mark on an otherwise wonderful day. So I just felt it's just, you asked the question, so I thought I'd just mention that it wasn't a totally perfect day because of that for me, and I'm keen to understand it. And I'd ask for people to just show respect for a player's choice in not booing that. But if it is a sign of racism, then you're not welcome at the club. I'd state that even further. If that's why you're booing, then it's quite simple for me. You are not welcome as a Grimsby Town fan because you don't represent what this club represents. Sorry, Alex Bruce. I think that's brought the tone down a little.
No. It was a question. No, you did ask beforehand, and we were going to get there, and you're absolutely right. I'd like to think I'm of the same sort of mindset where I'm going, it can't just be a racist thing. I can't imagine. I mean, we've spoken about racism on the show before. Tom has been brave enough to step up at points and go, that's a racist. He's been shouting racist abuse, and has been in problems for it because he got locked into a ground for his own safety because of it. It does happen, but I don't. There's been enough discourse over the summer to explain the point in taking the knee to a point where it comes away from being, as I would, if I'm looking at it as a glance, some sort of left-wing Marxist agenda. I don't think Grimsby or the country is at any point going to swing to a Marxist state. I mean, I know there's enough empty shelves at the moment to represent a 1980s communism, but I don't think it's necessarily going to go that way anytime soon. And yeah, I agree. So, I mean, if anybody did boo and is happy to message you directly and to the club and stuff to actually have an open conversation, because the only way people are going to move on from being ejected at some point, if it continues, I guess, because it's going to get to a point where people are going to come against each other and to, be awkward.
I mean, just to state it really, we want it to be a place where everyone can come and enjoy the football and have a great day out. And anything that makes people feel awkward, I felt awkward in that moment because I thought that doesn't represent the values and it just doesn't make it an inclusive place. It's that simple. We want it to be a place that everyone can come and put their political allegiances and the differences aside and enjoy a day out with their families and fellow like-minded people. So, I don't want to belabor that point. I think I've made the point I wanted to make, but I just thought that was the one thing for me. I was like, that didn't quite fit with the mental image I had, but it was a really small thing on an otherwise wonderful and magical day. The only other thing I made a mistake on, that I didn't eat on the day, so I was rushing around, and about 5:30 I felt faint. I was like, I haven't had any food, and I kept seeing those massive Scotch eggs in the fan zone and the hot dogs. So I'm making a priority to get something in the fan zone on tomorrow's game to make sure that I don't feel lightheaded as I drive back across the M62.
Andrew, are you slightly annoyed that Burkitt sausages are getting more of a promo at the moment than Pettit sausages in the ground?
No, not particularly. They're just the warm-up act.
Can I just
Yeah,
say
what-
something that this makes me laugh tremendously, right? So every time we meet, right, Andrew's had this stellar career as a lawyer, as a banker, as a private equity guy, and it's the one thing people ask him about in Grimsby. It must be like he's done this amazing life, and yet people just want to talk sausage to him.
They are exceptional, and
Well, the thing,
they are coming back. So
the problem is, especially Andrew, my dad used to make them, and he's very proud that he won the Lincolnshire Sausage Winner of the Year in 1999, and he still has his little plate.
brilliant.
He was at Alvingham Farm Shop. Then you snapped him up on deadline day to join JP and alike.
Brilliant. That's nice to hear.
Yeah. So yeah,
Alex, I've got a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
A question from a John Holmes. Can we hear a bit more about Andrew's background and previous working life, please? Timing or what, eh? Seamless.
Oh yeah. Happy to give you a little bit. I mean, my background is I was the first person in my family to go to uni. I went down to Brighton. Ended up I did law and French. Went to work in the City of London at a firm called Clifford Chance, which at the time actually I think it's still one of the largest law firms in the world doing property. Met my wife there in a very soft moment about 30 years ago. Then they didn't really want me, so they kept sending me off on secondment to different places. So I got sent off to Airbus in Toulouse. I got sent to Lehman Brothers in the bankers to work for them, and they ended up calling me and saying, "Well, leave the law and come and work at Lehman." So I was at Lehman in the property area of Lehman for about 8 or 9 years. Left well before they went bankrupt. 2003 I left. They went bust in 2008 to start my own business, and I was lucky enough to bring with me three colleagues from Lehman, plus actually my brother, who's one of my partners still, to start RevCap. And RevCap's we're a real estate private equity business. We basically back entrepreneurs to do interesting property deals around Europe. So everything from data centers to billboards to nursing homes to offices, shopping centers, pretty much you name it, we've done it. And we raise money from institutional investors around the world and hopefully invest it sensibly for them into projects with really interesting, really interesting and eclectic property related projects. And when it's right now, we're doing some social housing, we're doing we're buying quite a lot of offices at the moment. So right across the piece. And I'm lucky enough that we've got I've got a team of 50 people now that work for me with me in London. We've got offices in London, Paris, Frankfurt, Stockholm, and Madrid. How
did you both meet initially?
So we actually met through Tom Shoots. So when Jason could tell his half of the story, but my half of the story was when I actually read about being in property for quite a long time, over 20 years. I hadn't actually heard of Tom, and when Tom's name was sort of noticed in the newspaper as being potentially interested in a takeover, I kind of, the WhatsApp groups were whizzing, and I said, anyone know Tom Shoots? And funny enough, Will Douglas of Doc Spears did, and put me in touch. And I just picked up the phone to him and said I was a fan, lifelong fan, and if he wanted any help, and explained my background and what I did. And he said, yeah, let's look at it together. And it was as simple as that. And I think Jason had a similar conversation a little bit earlier, perhaps. But maybe you can say your connection, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's in the public domain, but I'd met Tom through a couple of people that I know. I was working on some projects that were more sort of charitable projects, and Tom's name was mentioned a couple of times. And in passing, someone said to me, I think he's trying to buy Grimsby Town Football Club. I was like, Oh, okay. So it'd been referenced on the charity project. So I met him, and yeah, look, I'd thought about the club before, but I was never prepared to do it on my own, just from the exposure and the experience, etc. And then, Tom and I were working on the deal, and Andrew was introduced to us, and I thought it was just such a gift that someone else local, because I didn't know. And actually, one of the wonderful things, actually, bit of serendipity, is that since we've announced that obviously we're involved with the club and stuff, there's loads of people sort of coming out of the woodwork around the world. They're town fans that have had amazing careers or feel committed to the club or the town. So I think it's just that just maybe people haven't want to make themselves known to maybe previous shareholders, whereas now there's a whole cadre of people that are saying, "Can we be useful? Can we be helpful?" So we've stated that we don't need additional shareholders at the moment, but over time. So in all the part of experience in actually what the jobs that Andrew and I have done is you're always fundraising, you're always building relationships so you take money when you want it rather than when you need it. And so, we're starting to build the relationships now so that if people do want to be investors or come along the journey at some point, then we're definitely open to that. So, but it's been lovely. There's been at least half a dozen conversations with people who have resources, shall we say, that are from the town, love the town, and want to do something with the town. That over the next couple of years, we'll put something together and bring some people in. But yeah, look, I'm doing a lot of reading and writing at the moment about luck and serendipity. I'm reading Nassim Taleb's book on Fooled by Randomness at the moment, just about how people, put a lot of their success down to their own hard work and their own, and it's just rubbish. Hard work is a necessary, and talent is a necessary condition of success, but it's not sufficient. You need a load of luck and serendipity and timing. And I genuinely, my life's littered with it. All of my success is down to the fact that at least half of my decisions have been just good fortune and good timing. But you do create the circumstance of that luck happening to you by putting yourself out there and putting your hat in the ring. And this is a great example. I genuinely think, and it didn't look like this on that Wednesday, half an hour before we were signing the documents when Tom pulled out, but I think we've ended up in a brilliant situation with two people that are totally aligned on values. Not entirely sure that was always the case with a broader group. Two people that are committed fans for the club from day dot, and two people that in a position that they want to do something that's useful for the broader community. So it's ended up in a perfect position, but none of it was designed. It's all circumstantial and chance. So I just think it evidences that again, that we happen to be in a good spot, and we'll keep riding that luck as long as we can, I guess.
I think as a fan, it's definitely nice to have two people that are local people involved, rather than somebody where you're questioning the reasons behind why they're doing it. You've both explained, and you're both lifelong fans of the club. And with due respect, I don't know Tom, and I don't know Tom's background particularly, but he's not from around here, and straight away that makes you just wonder. The reasons why somebody would want to be involved. It's we're never going to be a Liverpool or an Arsenal so I think it's more important for a club like ours, where we're all sort of going in the same direction and we're on the same journey together, and with two people that are local originally.
And to Jason's point on serendipity and luck, as Jason said, he wouldn't have done it on his own, and equally I wouldn't have done it on my own. So again, just that sort of consequential of timing is it's just come together so well. So I couldn't be happier with the partnership that we've got, and the and again, even the division of labour between us in terms of what we're doing, sort of in terms of overseeing different aspects of the club, kind of play to our skill sets. So there's not a lot of crossover. I don't profess to have any particular sort of Jason's built fantastic organisations. I've built one organisation and sort of in its own way, and then obviously to much larger scale. Whereas I guess I'm more sort of focused on the finance and property, and I guess a little bit legal from the past. So the combination just works incredibly well.
I think what we're stating is you've got one good person between the two of us is basically that equation.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, there are. I know we're pressed for time. I'd love to know, in terms of I'm very much in those sort of networking events and such. I'd love to know how long it takes for anybody to find out that either of you from Grimsby, because I think my time is around 12 minutes. And but the club have just announced that, well, yourselves, I guess, Adam Smith has been announced as the chief operating officer. Have you got anything to add to anything about that decision or anything like that? I know it's just sort of come out now.
No, so the Grimsby stuff is, I keep telling people the story that, you know, literally in the first 30 seconds of meeting me, you know, people know where I'm from. I've got my office in London on Simply Business was opposite the Bank of England. And so we took this really big, shiny office and it had like 12 big meeting rooms. So I said, look, everyone in the company, I think there's about 700 people at the time, put your name of where you're born in a hat and we'll pull out the names of the meeting rooms from people's birthplaces. And what I did was even this story is Grimsby in itself, right? I got a piece of paper with Grimsby and stuck it under my wedding ring and basically put my hand in the pot and pulled the first one. I was like, oh, it's Grimsby. The main boardroom's called Grimsby. And so when you send out a meeting request on Google, and I used to have this like 3 or 4 times a week, the meeting request would say location Grimsby. And so my assistant would get a note going, does Jason really want to meet me in Grimsby for an hour's meeting? So that's how much I'm from. Everyone that's worked with me knows it's such a badge of honour and pride and everything that's good about the town, about graft, about hard work, about sense of humour, about community. It's things that I've loved and I've taken into every business I'm in. So that's a long-winded way of saying, you know, if you don't know within the first 30 seconds, I've done something wrong generally, not telling you. And on Adam's just like, look, one of the roles as you do, as you look in organisations is you're trying to line, you know, you build a strategy and then you build a team around that strategy. But in a turnaround, you're kind of looking for talented people along the journey. And Adam stood out in like the first conversation. He's someone who's just exceptional individual. He's inquisitive. He's curious. He's bright. He's hardworking. He's got all that. So you just go. There are people you just want in your organisation, pushed into positions that might not necessarily even be intuitive. They're often called cultural beacons in companies as well. You know, and you just go, we want more of that. Let's find a place to put that person because they'll thrive. They might lack a bit of experience, but your experience catches up quite quickly. And Adam was just someone within 30 seconds of talking to him was like, you know, and the pitch stuff in the summer, and people don't know this, but you know, he just grabbed that stuff down at Cheapside and owned it and made it happen. You know, with you know, we were on the back foot at what we could do at what pace with the time we had, and he just made it happen. And it was just by sheer force of will and intellect and being pragmatic. So, you know, it's pretty. When Debbie came in, we're like, these are a couple of people I have a chat with. It's pretty clear they're going to be rock stars within the organisation. Let's just find somewhere to put them. And then Debbie's decision on putting him in the COO role once Ian told us he wanted to spend more time with his family, she made that decision. I had nothing to do with it, but it's pretty obvious there's a talented individual that can really help the organisation in terms of giving him more stuff to do, quite frankly. So that was my view on it. It was that straightforward. But it was Debbie's hiring decision. But I think it's a brilliant one.
He's all right. We grew up together, so that's the only thing I can say.
I didn't realise. I thought it was a bit mean. I was like, bloody hell, you can pass judgment on anyone that works in the organisation. You've got a personal relationship.
Yeah, no. He's I don't know if you know, but he started work experience there, and he never left until I think what was it? When we got relegated and the academy had to be sort of smaller, but yeah, great, thank you very much. I mean, I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. We've gone over an hour mark, and I know you were really busy enough as it is this week. It's Friday on a 5 o'clock, and we're still both of you are still in offices, I guess.
Well, I'm in the ground. So if you want to go, is there any important questions that you don't want to miss? I'm happy to stay for another 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know.
I'm happy to stick around as well.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there's one question then, especially around youth, the youth academy. So within 3 years of being in the non-league, we have to be removed from the league we're in, and funding is all but gone. And I guess it's what, around 450,000 pound a year. What are the This year's a bun fight at the top, with people with very deep pockets and maybe not much of a forward-thinking plan. What is the process in your head if we are still here in 3 years' time, which is not necessarily going to be a failure at any point? It just takes a while. There's only 2 spots. I don't know if there's a plan for the youth team in that, or whether or not we're just waiting.
We've committed to the youth team. It's something that we're not downsizing. We're not looking at downsizing in the future either. It's the academy is central to our kind of thoughts as to one, offering that aspiration to people in the town, two, working with Neil and the team to basically bring along talented youngsters. I mean, you've seen this summer, we had one young lad who was Ben Grist, who hadn't even made his competitive debut for the first team, being chased by a couple of Premier League teams. So clearly do a fantastic job down there, and that helps the kind of, obviously, the overall funding story. So what worries me more about the sort of the rules around the academy is that the no poaching rules are less stringent as you sort of drop out of the official EFL system. So you can be suffer at the hands of predatory league clubs. So we need to work as hard as we can for that reason alone, if not lots of other reasons, to get ourselves back into the league structure.
This might not be in your realms, but what is the process after that? So I was quite surprised to learn that after 3 years, you're no longer in the league that you're in. You're booted. Is there anything that you can actually do after that, or are we sort of arranging games sort of at random, ad hoc?
So there is a National League Cup for the youth team, which we're entering this year. And if obviously there's quite a lot of decent sized clubs in the National League and the National League North, for that matter, that I think would organise games against them, either in a formal league, a small league with the likes of Notts County, Chesterfield, and Halifax, and you've got decent teams that would I think also have a supportive view in terms of academy. So the standard's clearly going to go down. You're not in some of the bigger competitions, but it certainly won't be something where you're just organising ad hoc friendlies, I don't think.
I think being honest about it as well. I think we've made the statements. I was actually chatting to Neil today, Neil Woods, saying we're committed to it. I think it has an additional value in the. I remember as a kid growing up, playing for the town sides and stuff. Is that what it does for kids having an aspiration to think that they can, one day potentially be, Harry Clifton, Max Wright, etc. It's just, you can't put a value on that as well. So we're committed to it and ongoing. I think there's a bunch of unknowns there as well around what that looks like for the club. If we're down in this league in 5 years and people are spending £3 million a year on their squads, we've got to come up with a way to compete on that. And so I think this year is a rare league, isn't it, in terms of the number of good clubs that have super competitive budgets and Hollywood owners. So, but I think that's not going to be the case ad nauseum. So, and look, and people should take comfort from, we're going to evolve as well. So look, everything that we've done in our careers and our aspiration is to improve and be ambitious, both for the culture and for the organisation at large. So we're not coming in saying this is what it is, this is how it's going to be. We're not going to evolve. We're going to look at ways of improving the organisation. And I think we've got to be realistic, is that there are a bunch of variables that we just won't know about sat here today, 3 years down the line. But sat here now, we're committed to the academy and the setup, and credit to Neil, right, and his team has done a brilliant job with relatively limited resource. I'm not sure what's the budget from the EFL's 400 odd grand, Alex. I'm not sure that's what they've been spending. I think that's been potentially utilised elsewhere historically. And so I think they've done a brilliant job. So I look at it the other way, which is going, imagine if they had the capability and a facility to do something that was remarkable and attract kids that might be going to Lincoln or Scunny or Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday or whatever. So, but I also want to be candid that we just don't know. Don't want to future gaze into 3 years from now. Depends what the situation is going to be as well. But broadly, we're committed to it. And certainly in that sort of timescale, there'll be no changes.
Bruce, is there anything you would like to ask? I know the streaming, there's nothing that can be done. I understand that it's a National League contractual thing. As an exile, it hurts. It feels like the 80s again. I am still expecting to go down and get the Sports Telegraph and then, pick it up. It's that sort of listening on the wireless now. But I guess you're all kind of in the same boat as well if you're not in the town. Hopefully you might get a link at least to watch it if you own the place, but maybe not.
No, not even. No, funny enough, I was talking to Debbie about this yesterday, and I said I'm going to actually throw my hat in the ring to try and understand the details of the BT contract, and then try offer my services to try and help negotiate better rights in terms of streaming for the future. It's not going to change this season, but that's something that for me is worked really well during COVID, and with the technology we have today, you must be able to. I mean, the whole purpose of it is to not diminish crowds on a Saturday, and if people are in Stavanger in Norway, then they're not going to be able to make it to Blundell Park on a Saturday, unfortunately. So certainly international should be different, and the question is whether you can even geolocate it even more.
Was your I thought your offer of help there, Andrew, was going to extend to standing up on the gantry with your iPhone, streaming through FaceTime just for a few friends.
Yeah, could do a bit of that. Yeah.
Let's sort that out. If your legal conversations don't work, let's use it as a plan B, maybe.
He's just shouting, "I'm a lawyer. It's fine."
Exactly. Sue me.
Tom, is there something you wanted to ask as well? And Bruce, sorry, I hijacked your question then.
No, there wasn't really a question. I was just sorry, Tom. I was just going to say that I was encouraged by the fact that I saw earlier that we'd sold 4,500 tickets for tomorrow already again. And I think last week we were about at the same number on the Friday, and then all of a sudden it tipped over 5,000 on the Saturday. I think that's encouraging, because one of the questions that we had was, we touched on earlier was, can we? That was obviously the first game of the season, the first game of the new era, if you like. But it looks like hopefully the fans, and hopefully we can maybe get over 5,000 again tomorrow, which would be, in my eyes, would be brilliant, because we have historically had a bigger crowd, and then it's dropped off by 600 or 800 the following game. If we can get those people in and keep them in, then that can only be good for the future.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Go on, Tom. It's your turn. It's your time to shine. I mean, it's a very unflattering camera angle, but there we go.
Yeah, sorry, I've just been dipping in and out and listening with interest, really, to what they've both got to say. And I haven't really got any questions, but thank you both for coming on. I was interested if Andrew did a year abroad when he studied French, and where it was, because I did French at university. Just completely off topic.
Yeah, I went to Brussels to study EU law. How useful that was now.
Yeah. No, interesting. But no, sorry.
I can give you a list of around 800 aerospace companies that are interested in your EU law, Andrew.
Exactly.
But yeah, thank you. Is there anything that you guys do you think we're missing, or anybody else hasn't asked you yet, that you thought would be interesting to talk about? I mean, how have you found it? Has it been what you expected?
I had no baseline really, so no, really, there was no baseline for either of us of what it would be like. So it's been great. Look, well, we both remain. I'm speaking for Andrew, but I think we both remain enthused about the opportunity. We feel like we're at the beginning of a long journey, and so we know there's that sort of curvilinear thing. It'll be up and down, but hopefully the overall trend will be up. And we look. One day we hope when we hand it on, people will look back and say, "Look, it's improved organisation." That's what we hope for. So at the moment, it's great. There's plenty to do. There's loads to do, more to do than we expected. But as we've said before, we're here to put the work in. So I don't know, Andrew, anything more than that?
No, it's just a privilege to be able to, for an institution that we've all known and loved all of our lives, to be able to try and make a difference, and even no matter how small or big, but that we take very seriously and consider it a privilege. And so very sort of, I guess, proud to be hopefully be able to make some all of our lives better, because we all love the club. Otherwise why would we all be sort of spending our time on a Friday afternoon on a podcast? It's amazing. And I think what you guys do in terms of the podcast is brilliant. I mean, the whole series of interviews you had during in and around the Broad League game was I thought was fantastic, and bringing back a lot of the sort of heroes of the last 5, 10, 20, 30 years was brilliant. So I guess I take my hat off to you guys for sort of putting your time in and delivering what is proper entertainment.
Well, have you got any requests? Who would you like?
Well, I just want to build on that comment because I didn't want it to be lost in the mail. I was going to say this at the end, but I've been listening to you guys since pretty much you started out. You got me through COVID, and I enjoyed the comment. And actually, you might not be aware of this, or you might not like this, but you gave us information and informed us through the process that encouraged us to do the deal. There's conversations you had, the passion that you've got for the club. Many months I was thinking, this is the stuff that represents the fans at a time when we couldn't come to games and stuff. So actually, you're all culpable and has been sat here, and I'm going to hold you to that. Should it go to shit in the next few years? Because it was part of listening to your conversations and your passion and your insights and your experience that made me feel like it was something worth doing. So thanks for that. And again, what we said before, and I think we've got to state it, on the podcast. We'd love to maybe do a live version at one of the games. Come along as our guests, and maybe after the game we could do one of the live reviews in the boardroom or something. Because I think you do a brilliant job at keeping the fans informed. You're objective, you're knowledgeable, and it's been important to us as fans, and it is as owners. So let's do that. Do one live, maybe the next one, and next month or so if you fancy it. Come on down for a game, and we'll spin for fish and chips and a couple of pints for you to put you in a good mood before we do it, and then take the difficult questions after that.
I mean, it was nice enough that you allowed me to meet Alan Poughton in the boardroom last time. That was wonderful. It was just a shame that you both weren't there. Did you not want to come and say hello? I mean, it was like
I was there, but I was just like, do you know what? Here's a decision I made. I was like, do I really want to be hanging around for a load of pissed up people giving me their opinion? I mean, at the beginning of the day, it was great, and I sat in the pony. So I was like, do you know what? People are starting to look a bit merry. It might be time for me and my son to take a side exit. So I thought I'd just leave people to it. People looked like they was enjoying themselves. But I used to do this at Christmas parties at my work. I had a rule of leaving before 9 o'clock, before people get too merry, and give you both barrels of their opinion, shall we say. I prefer it when it's more of a conversation rather than being shouted at with sort of Carlsberg breath. So I thought, but I was here and I really enjoyed the day. But I wanted to jet off with my son to get home afterwards.
it was a surreal experience. Who was the one that was doing the Tina Turner? Was it a Tina Turner impression, Bruce?
It was Gally. I can't remember who. I can't remember what he was singing. I was recruiting interviewees at the time. But I brought one person through to you.
That was it, Tom Jones.
And then came back for another one, and Gally was on stage with what's his name from Benidorm.
Sure, this wasn't a cheese dream, Bruce. It sounds like a dream you might have had.
On stage. No, Andy Wood came back from Benidorm, didn't he, to sing, and that's why he got a place. He got a kickabout in the game as well. And Gally was on stage with him at one point. Yeah, so you missed out there, really.
It was a weird cheese dream as you're walking to the bar and you have to move sort of. Liam Hearn is talking to Paul Groves, and Tommy Widrington's getting in your way. Chris Hargreaves sort of like jostling with Gally and such. It was a weird cheese dream. That's the best way of describing that day. It was phenomenal. Though I'm slightly worried about what the puffin was for. We'll have to work that one out.
I did have a moment actually that I was a bit stunned. I turned around at one point in the minutes before the game, and Tony Ford was right behind. I thought of you, Andrew. Actually, I had a lovely chat to him, about his career and his, and just saying, look, everyone that's here today is welcome at the club, and I'm trying to work on something actually about how we get the old players back in. I'll sort of hold the press on that, I guess, because we've got some stuff in the pipeline. But just as fans, you love it, right? The idea that you could come and see one of the old players talking about their experience in the club. I got to chat. I did an interview with Gregor Robertson the other day for the Times, and I spent half of it just asking him questions about Wembley and how he played and how he bowed out of his career. So it's just more of that around the club rather than less would be great, wouldn't it? So it was a real testimony to the Broadley guys and what you did to help organise. It was such and Macca, I guess. It was such a fantastic day and great to be part of.
Has that interview with Gregor Robertson gone live, so to speak, in the Times yet, Jason?
No, I only spoke to him yesterday. I think it was what day?
Oh, right.
Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday, yesterday, the day before. So he approached me based on the Guardian stuff I've been writing, the column I've been writing, just to say what to have a chat. And so it was lovely chat. Actually, again, an awkward moment that when he retired, I sent him a note through Twitter saying what I appreciate him as a player and stuff. And so the opening 5 minutes were like, you might remember if you go through your Twitter messages, the one before you messaged me as an owner was me as a fan saying thank you. I used to enjoy him watching him play as a player. So it's quite a nice exchange, and he's super smart, and it was really, really enjoyable chat yesterday. Just hope he doesn't stitch me up now.
So have we got Andrew, Tony Ford for you? That's who you'd like us to get on.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, and then Joe Waters.
Yeah, I think you said you've got him lined up, haven't you? But yeah, just yeah. I mean, there's loads. I mean, Andrew, I've talked about this as well. There's just so many players from the past, right? That you'd love to have there. But I was looking forward to that sort of 80s reunion. I think I was doing it pre-COVID when it was that sort of 79, 80 team, 81, 82, again, a few players. And I was like, that'd have been hell of a night. But I also worry about like they're men in their later years of life now as well. And, seeing a sort of 70 or 80-year-old person talking, I want to make sure that, we're treating those people with respect. But Joe is what was one of my favourites from my childhood. So I'll be interested to see that conversation.
I'd love to get Ivano on and get the real insights.
And Brian Lewis together,
yeah.
I think I might be needed. From everything we've learned, I think I might need to come to you, Andrew, for some financial backing on that interview.
I've got one last question actually that's just come to mind because I read about it today and when Saturday comes. It was, are we going paperless with tickets and programmes going forwards? So it's a subject very close to my heart.
This is a leading question, guys. Hold on.
I was just wondering, because my brother is a member of the 1878 thing, and he sort of got the impression that we might be going paperless with tickets going forward, which, I think is probably how it is happening now. But I'd be just interested to know what your thoughts were on that. If you haven't read the article in When Saturday Comes by Saul Pope, it's a love letter to collectors of tickets and programmes for anybody else who's listening.
We haven't mentioned the issue. I think just the way the world's going, mate. We had talked about contactless payments earlier today as part of the board meeting that we had. It sort of makes sense from a hygiene and from the way the world is going. So it hasn't come up as a topic. I think we need to be. Look, again, I think this is a good example of a small thing that matters. It's a small thing that will matter greatly to a subset of people. So it's a really good example of, instantly you go, oh, it probably makes sense to be paperless. Then you go, actually, there'll be a subset of our fan base that this will be really important to. So we need to just take that into consideration, I'd suggest. I've got like loads of books in my house and I read everything. And I was always like, I will never buy a Kindle and I will never, not own a book anymore. And I don't really buy physical books anymore. So it's interesting. It'd be interesting to have a conversation around that transition for people. But yeah, it hasn't come up yet as a topic. So I think it's a good prompt, really, Tom, because it shows that we need to be thinking about those people that the physical items are lodged firmly in their hearts, as opposed to just being a consideration for efficiency and the green benefits, I guess, that would bring.
Yeah, I'm not against progress. I was having a conversation with one of my friends from Cardiff who's a Barry Town season ticket holder, and he went to watch Barry play, I think it was Kevin Druids over the weekend, and they didn't do a physical program. It was just a downloadable one, and they didn't do a ticket as well. It was like a barcode on your phone, and credit where it's due. Saul Pope touches on it very well in the When Saturday Comes article. It's those, if you don't have one or the other, there's no physical souvenir of that game, and those souvenirs evoke lots of different memories that, like you just said there, people enjoy and are able to sort of look back on. If they keep their tickets or their programs in a shoebox under the bed or whatever, you get them out from time to time and have a look and think, oh yeah, Stockport in the FA Cup 3-2, 2 late goals, what a fantastic occasion that was, or whatever. And sorry to bring it down.
No, that sounds like a good article. I like it. Again, these are the relatively seemingly simple issues that are you won't get in other businesses. There's the complexity, as Bruce shows us his Aston Villa ticket. It just means something different. It occupies a different space in both the hearts and minds of people, doesn't it? Than just a normal transactional thing. And I think these are fascinating because they're philosophical conversations about physical manifestations of memory and what we can do, to make sure that we connect into that. At the same time, had a conversation with my kids the other day about they're talking about my 9-year-old was talking about his driving test. And I was like, you won't do a driving test. There'll be driverless cars, and you'll do it as a choice if you want to drive like people ride horses. They don't ride horses like they did 100 years ago. And it's just like, you got to keep moving forward and taking the best of progress, but at the same time being respectful of history and the past and retaining the stuff that matters to people as well. I think it's a balance, and it's something we're feeling acutely. I think more than any other organisation. The tech business I've built, it's all about progress and moving forward. But this is a very different weight to those conversations, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to go and watch PSG quite regularly, and this was in 2009-10 season, and they already then were on barcodes without a person on the turnstile. So you just put the ticket in, and then the turnstile opened for you. And I always felt that was quite a soulless process going to watch them, because already when you get to the turnstile, you might have a little chat with a bloke on the turnstile, big game today, just a little comment that it's part of the build up to the game, crunching through the turnstile, having that little conversation. And you sort of look, I haven't been to a top flight game in England for a long time now, but you sort of look at the way like things are going, with it all being sort of seamless and contactless, and there's no there's no sort of person there anymore, which makes it a little bit. So I think that's why a lot of people have gone back to non-league actually. But yeah, sorry, I've just rambled on about absolutely.
It'd be interesting to. I mean, maybe it's a longer conversation next, but it's interesting to see generationally how that applies. There's a whole thing around. There's a great Douglas Adams quote about anything invented before you're 16 or 18 is completely natural to you. Anything between 18 and 30, it's fascinating. You probably get a job in it. And anything invented when over the age of 30 is against the natural order of the universe and should be shut down immediately. We're in that sort of domain. There's a new generation coming up. Would they have the same sentiment of physical objects and stuff, or do they actually want something that's completely seamless and contactless? I don't know, but they're interesting questions, I think.
I don't want anyone watching me struggling through a turnstile, especially those ones that I saw photographed at Stockport. That seemed that was keeping out a weight limit. That was, gents. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope it was really appreciated, and thank you very much for the kind words as well previously too. Well, long may it continue.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for inviting us on again.
Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate enjoyed the conversation. We'll see you all soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers for now.
Open wide for some soccer!